This is Movie Mosh, Episode 2, Häxan, hosted by Dan Terry, Mike Yaney, and Joseph Wren. Presented by discussmetal.com.
Well, we just watched a fucking movie, didn't we?
Häxan, motherfucker.
Hells yeah.
What year did this movie come out? Was it 19? I could just look on the box.
1922.
Yeah.
1922. This movie is bananas. 1922, silent film, all about witchcraft. Or rather, the paranoia surrounding witchcraft. And, I mean, they jumped time periods a few times.
And how it is still with us in different forms.
It is, or at least it was in 1922.
The
Could all be
early
gone
20s
now.
version of a docudrama. We're going to tell you what people actually thought. We're going to tell you what they were afraid of, what supposedly happened in the middle of the night when the devil popped out of the fucking wall, waggling his tongue, saying, "Come over here."
I can make the smoothest butter for you. You
Fucking
won't
smooth
believe how well this spreads, and it's
You've heard of
rich.
grass-fed butter, but have you heard of devil butter?
Now,
Oh my
you
God.
have to lick my butt first, though. I don't know if I mentioned that first.
That was
but,
crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of devil ass kissing. And,
That's how you pay tribute.
It is.
Not sure why Jeff keeps asking for it.
There's a scene where a demon is sacrificing a baby. That's in a 1922 silent film. I want you to just wrap your head around that. You see, you might be thinking that, like, oh, I thought old movies were, like, decent and shit.
No.
They really weren't. As far back then, you really didn't have any real standards on what you could put on film. So, of course, just like, it's just like with music, really. Like, you have people that write music that's happy and fun and go lucky. And then you always have that fucking guy in the corner that's like, I'm going to record the most horrendous shit I possibly can.
Who let Dan in here?
And then you get Pantera, but it's like, more realistically, Mayhem or Gorgoroth or bands like that. But I don't think that was the intention either. I don't think that the intention behind this movie was to be evil.
No.
I think it was to be shocking, certainly. What a lot
But
of these...
more in the sense of, did you know? You
think-
didn't know? Well, let me show you.
The dramatic parts, like when you see the witches frolicking and doing their deeds, and when you see the Inquisition doing what it's doing, a lot of those scenes, I think, in there just to add a little bit of spice to what is not necessarily a dry subject, but which, it wanted to spice it up for people, even back then.
Well, they
Well, that
definitely
and going
spiced
to
it
the
up.
movies in the 20s was, oh, me and Stacy are going to the pictures, and what we get is what we get. Nobody even went to see Häxan. They just went to the pictures.
Well, yeah, that too. Also, I don't know what kind of distribution this film got. It probably was only like in Sweden, in Scandinavia, and Europe in general. Like, I know that a lot of classic silent movies only really came out and were really shown in the countries they originated in. There really wasn't much of an international market for it until like the 30s. By the time you get to the talkies,
It was banned, I believe. Or not even banned as much as people would be like, yep, nope.
I think it was
They
kind of
wouldn't even touch
forgotten.
it.
I think it was kind of forgotten about until the 60s or so.
Yeah.
At least in America.
So it was just called The Witch, and everybody said, no, not in my theater.
Sort of. I mean, some of the stuff that they said at the end of the movie was especially true about how that superstition still exists to this day.
Yeah.
And I think people rejecting the movie is really like a gotcha, told you,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people that,
People that don't pick up on the tonal shift within the movie itself. Maybe they can't distinguish like what's supposed to be. Like those scenes are so vivid where you see, them sacrificing a baby, where you see them like flying off into the night. Then you think, is this movie trying to tell us that witches are real? No, it's trying to get you into the headspace of the people that thought that way.
Right, well, because that whole scene, too, was just a balls-out insane confession that they tortured out of somebody.
Yeah.
Where she's like, okay, here's how it went down.
And they make it very clear. They spell that out. So, I don't know. I really don't know if it was banned in this country so much as it was. I always just think it was just forgotten about, but...
I would think that it might have done better internationally than it would have done in the U.S., just because, in 1920s U.S., there was still kind of a little bit of a stigma with anything. So, because you got to think that was during like the revivalist time and stuff like that in America. I mean, America was kind of going through one of its most religious reawakenings.
At the same time, you know what also was going on? Spiritualism.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, too.
Again.
So this idea of, like, the occult was big on people's minds. This is where you get, like, guys like Montague Summers start releasing books on the vampire, his kith and kin, and stuff like that. So I don't think that Häxan wouldn't have found, like, fertile ground over here. It's just the nature of the medium.
Well, I don't know, though, because spiritualism is a little different in the sense that spiritualism was more not necessarily based on the religion side of things. You know, like they weren't using religious terminology and things like that. They were just trying to basically communicate with the dead or to basically find this alternate world that existed outside of our normal.
I think there's a lot of overlap, but overall, when you get down to it, belief is belief. And you decide I'm going to believe in X, and then you believe in it and see how far it gets you.
I would think that a spiritualist would find a movie like, well, maybe not a movie like Häxan, but just the idea of like spiritual things being evil as counterproductive
or wrong. Like in this case, like the idea of it being like this is people. Oh, you believe that witches are real, and they're actually literally worshiping the devil and performing his actions on Earth. Well, that's misguided. And you might be like, no, the devil was real.
The devil's real, bish.
The devil's real.
Right, because at that point, the argument is, what are you wasting your time believing in these deities and these gods? I can actually talk to dead people.
Right. I think that the spiritualist...
And then Harold Houdini shows up and is like, actually, you're full of shit.
Now punch me in the stomach.
Houdini, the ultimate troll.
He was legit, though.
I'm here to ruin your day. I'm like a storm cloud.
Now punch me in the stomach.
he just he took the wins out of all these shysters, all these con men, and of course they wanted to kill him.
But I think that he was like the Jesus of. Anyway, okay, that's gone too far considering tonight's subject matter. But with Häxan, I think that, at face value, a spiritualist would want to have nothing to do with something that would promote anything remotely spiritual as evil or satanic.
If anything, it's a comedy.
But if they had actually watched the film, they would find that the mindset and the views are very much in line with more contemporary thinkers when it comes to witchcraft.
I mean,
Satanism.
Again, do we even know if this even aired in the United States at all?
I'm not sure. That's why we did a podcast about it without researching it at all.
Yeah, it's to say, really did not research. So, I mean, it's for me, it's just cool. There's for people that are still interested, I believe it's also free. There's the version with William S. Burroughs, who is just narrating the whole thing. And if anyone who does not know who that is, you might have heard of Naked Lunch. You might have heard of quite a lot of other works like Junkie, this old, kind of like one of the first uber beatniks, although he never self-identified as a beatnik. But he was lumped in with these guys. But incredible writer, usually very matter of fact, talked about the grossest, weirdest sexual shit in his own life and other things. And also wrote really trippy sci-fi that was a lot like Philip K. Dick stuff. So, he narrates Häxan. And if you're interested in that, it's up for free. All this stuff is for free. So you can find it pretty easily.
Yeah, you can YouTube this movie.
We'll have a link to it in
Both
the show
versions.
notes.
Yeah, I mean, you can just go right to it.
And another good thing about that version is it has a much more appropriate soundtrack. A dissonant, weird, experimental jazz
soundtrack, can you?
version.
I recommend watching it silent.
I do not like... I'm not a big fan of incidental, just like classical music tracks slapped on top of a movie haphazardly without any consideration to what's going on in the scene. I hate that.
That's why we listen to the industrial death version.
There's the
Nosferatu.
There's the goth industrial soundtrack for Nosferatu.
Yes,
but I don't think it's as good as the quote unquote original score, which I thought that movie was very well scored.
Sometimes they are. I don't know. There's some versions but there's a version of
the dollar
Fritz
store
Lang.
version is bad.
Yeah, like the Fritz. I saw a version of Fritz Lang Metropolis. There was a scene that was like very, very kind of slow and thoughtful, and it had this high strings, like just like you thought someone was about to get killed. And then there's a straight up rape scene in the movie where it's literally like la 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 la. It's like this flowery kind of like Vivaldi score going on, and I'm thinking, I'm being trolled by this movie.
If this was actually showing at the theater in the 20s, the guy playing piano would be like, this is not a good scene.
The Perils of Pauline or whatever.
Fuck yeah.
It's an interesting movie. I like what they were trying to go for, basically comparing, saying that, stop maligning and thinking of people with mental disabilities as so, like, completely outside the spectrum, because this is the same time period in which we have eugenicists arguing that we should exterminate and euthanize, or at the very least sterilize anyone with anything remotely mentally wrong with them.
So you're saying this movie had a message?
Yes, it did. And I know the Nazis weren't very fond of it, and that's part of the reasons why. It's like, well, instead of treating these people, they wanted to just butcher them. So
what do you mean, mein Führer? We should not put the people in the ovens.
Well, I think
they put themselves in those ovens.
That's something else entirely. But
it's just like Hansel and Gretel, those German witches, always trying to burn people, man, always trying to shove them in ovens.
Fuck. Well, I think that fuck, dude, that's harsh. I don't know if we can put that in. Yeah, we will. Who gives a fuck? But the thing that I liked about this movie, too, is they tried really hard to illustrate both sides of the argument, too, in the sense that, like, these religious people were super delusional. You have to also understand that, like, the people that they were interrogating also believed in witchcraft and believed in all of this stuff, too, which is where we get those insane confessions where they're like, well, maybe I was bewitched.
What's kind of strange also is that something that I was reading a while back about just the very nature of belief in that time period. Like, at first, like, there's this folk magic, right? But then when you get suspicion of people, you start to build, like guys like Heinrich Kramer building this whole vast mythology of, like, here's the devil, what the devil's serpents do, here's how they do it. People read that, it leaches into pop culture, and before you know it, you have people actually legit trying to do that stuff because they think, oh, you mean if I pledge my soul to Satan, I can do this shit?
Yeah, I mean, you put it out in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Not difficult, man.
Sure.
There might be legit. So there might be some legit people that thought they were doing this stuff, but of course it's all bullshit when it comes down to
every last bit of it. Yeah, and but I definitely liked the authenticity that they tried to create with the scenes. I mean, it might look kind of hokey now, but it actually looks less hokey than a lot of movies that come out now that try to recreate a medieval or
So there's this guy. He's going to dress up like the devil, and we have no such thing as CGI.
Because you're filming a real thing.
They frickin' nailed the devil right there, man. Like that scene where he just rises above the book. Holy fuck.
Oh, yeah.
That's the devil.
That is.
There's no question about it in anybody's mind.
Where's the Shadow of Häxan film, Mike?
It wasn't even like an imp.
He made a pact with the devil to be in the movie.
But no, it wasn't even even an imp.
Are you implying that this is like Max Schreck being a vampire for real? You're saying that Swedish actor really was the devil?
Actually was the devil. They threw a casting call out for the actual devil. It's kind of like when Chris Hemsworth tried out for Thor, and they were like, "Oh shit, it's actual Thor." But the devil. I mean, they did so well with that visual because, like, it's not like it was just an imp or a lesser demon, or there was no confusing that this was the Lucifer of the Bible. Like there was just nothing left of the imagination on that.
Yep.
And
so, I think that also one has to wonder just how much that has influenced our view of the devil. How much?
I wonder that too. I mean, much the same way that Nosferatu. Another silent film shaped how we feel about vampires.
Yeah.
The
truly bestial kind of vampires,
Well, Mike, I think you'd know better than me. Prior to this film being made, the depictions of the devil were basically that of a higher imp or demon or Bahamut.
A lot of it's kind of like taken from, you start to see like depictions of Satan looking like that in the late Middle Ages, and a lot of it seems to be kind of cribbed from classical, like it's kind of like, he looks like Pan. Like they take like what like Dionysus and Pan look like, and they make it look even more evil.
I'm a satyr, look at me.
Yeah. Like there's a bit of that, a bit of crossover with classical mythology, and a lot of these, like, the church is really big into this, obviously. So it all kind of, it's this big welter. I don't feel that qualified to talk about it, actually. I'm not an art history major.
You're the most qualified man in the room.
But no, it's weird how our views of what the devil even looks like have changed so much over time.
Well, clearly not a lot, because we knew exactly who that was.
Oh, yeah.
At first glance. So I think there's a certain collective view of the devil, at least here in America.
Yeah.
And
guy in a big red suit, jumps around, got a pitchfork.
No, he's white. Whiter than you folks. Walks around with a mean old hound dog. That's a movie we need to do on the show.
Closer to reality than we'd like to admit, maybe.
Totally. But so, I mean, would you recommend this movie, Mike, to people to check out, or is this?
Oh man, I think that even if you don't like it, you should see it at least once, just to be like, for another thing than just to get up and be like, "What the fuck was that?" or like, "Huh, that was boring," and get away. But if you're into the occult, if you say you like metal stuff, and if you like film history at all, or even if you just like spooky shit, like just go out and see it, man. You know, everyone should see this at least once.
I think for me, it's got the same effect as like a Cannibal Corpse record, like a Butchered at Birth or something like that, where it's not something that I'm going to watch all the time.
No.
But like when somebody like that doesn't know me very well comes over to my house and they're like, "Let's watch a movie," this is the one you put on.
Sometimes
and you just
I
sit back and don't say anything and just like let them watch it.
You do that just to test people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, find out what their longevity is as a friend. You know, how far can I take shit with this person before they leave? So I mean, yeah, I would recommend it if only for that fucked up reason, but also that it's kind of cool to know that back in the 1920s, that a lot of the views that we have on witchcraft and how unfortunate people were treated back then over basically just faceless accusations or mental illness, that there actually was a contemporary view on all of that.
Yes.
You know, we're coming up on almost 100 years ago.
Sometimes equally brutal. Like again, a lot of countries. It wasn't just the Nazis. A lot of countries euthanized their mentally disabled people, and a lot of states in the United States did this too. So it's kind of something to think about.
It is.
I like silent movies. I think people should watch silent movies, especially for the historical fact that before we had modern films, we had pictures. People went to pictures and watched things on the screen be presented to them. Look at that. It's a picture, and it's moving.
Quiet down. Watch the picture show.
I don't know if it's for everybody. There are many people that don't watch any silent film or really any film prior to the 1950s.
They're missing out so much.
And they absolutely are. I think at worst, this movie is a propaganda film for the mistreatment of mental patients. And propaganda is evil. But if we don't watch it, we don't take it in and at least try to understand why it was created, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we will definitely repeat it.
It's that old trope, some anvils need to be dropped.
Visually.
Yeah.
I love the depiction of the devil and hell. There are so many tropes about what hell looks like. My favorite for years was Bill and Ted. Then it quickly became Coffin Joe. Now,
still have to see
I got a contender. So, definitely. You should watch it at least once. I think most of these silent movies were made to be watched one time. I don't think any of the old serials are designed to be sat down and repeatedly watched over and over. That's why they were serials. It was you watch it once and come back next week for the next part. There was no go back. So it should be watched at least once. Especially if you like dark and dreary shit, because some of this shit's scary, man.
Totally scary.
Some of those creatures, like that woman giving birth to a centipede demon. I mean, this movie's got everything, man.
Those weren't Ewoks?
I think if you think the movie's improved by there being Ewoks in it, then why not?
They have to blink, though.
Well, guys, that does it for this week's episode of Movie Mosh. We will be back very soon with more movies, more talk. I know these episodes are a little bit shorter than the main podcast, Discography Discussion, but if you guys want to hear us talk more about these movies, you can subscribe to our Patreon, where you will get to hear our audio commentary as we're watching the movie. Some of the stuff is a complete surprise as we're seeing it. I'm not going to necessarily say that it would be fun to listen to without having the movie synced up, which is why we do a 3, 2, 1, go. If you have this movie or can obtain it somehow, definitely try to watch it with the commentary and listen to the hilarity that ensues on some of those commentary tracks. We will see you guys very soon with another episode of Movie Mosh. Reach out to us. Let us know how you feel about the show. Dan and Joe Show at gmail.com. You can go on our Facebook, facebook.com/discography discussion. You can find all of these episodes and tons of other goodies at discussmetal.com. We'll see you guys later.
Take care, everybody.
Peace.
Well done, Grandpa. You really are the best.